Welcome back, Helldivers, to your daily news update. Now, today we are going to be reading through the full interview from the new CEO, Shams, and the new Chief Creative Officer, Johan. They go on to talk about what they want the game to become in the future and why this is going to change the game forever. And hopefully we can look forward to a very, very successful rest of the Helldivers 2 life, depending on how long that is. So if you guys do get all the news you need to know, if you wouldn't mind dropping a like on today's video and subscribing if you're new around here, that would mean the world to me. And let's just get straight in with things. So yeah, the news pretty much shocked the Helldivers community today to find out that Johan, the CEO, was stepping down to then become the Chief Creative Officer and bring in someone he's worked with or known for a long time, which was Shams. So Arrowhead Games, we want to be the next From Software or Blizzard. The Helldivers 2 developer on handling the shock success of its game and thirst for more. Let's get straight in with things. If you want to check out the full article, the link will be in the description down below to game.biz or games industry. So let's get in with things. So nobody expected the success of Helldivers 2. The co-op third-person shooter, which was published by PlayStation and developed by Arrowhead Games, was released in February and has gone on to sell 12 million copies in 3 months. It is now PlayStation's fastest-selling game, bigger than God of War or Spider-Man or Uncharted. Depending on who you are, you'll always point to different things as to why it was successful, says Arrowhead's Chief Creative Officer, Johan. If you're a business exec at a major publisher, you'd say it's the live service element that keeps players coming back and the cheaper price point. If you're a game designer, you'll point to the systematic nature of the game. If you're an artist, you'll talk about the day and night cycle, the destructible environments, and the beautiful worlds. It's a balance between all these elements. But speaking personally, I would say it's the fact that we're doing something with Helldivers that is outside of the inflection point that the games industry is heading towards. What you're seeing through these cycles in the industry is people taking inspiration from each other and building upon that. But that means people are building towards a single point, because you lose something through each iteration. With Helldivers, we made a strong decision that we're not going to go with the status quo. We're going to place ourselves outside of that by making a lot of mechanics that are generally not seen in games. We have friendly fire on always. I think people are surprised that we make the game this way. They're surprised that the responsibility is not to blow your friends up. That's on you. For Johan personally, the success of Helldivers 2 was the realization of a dream he had since he was 8 years old. I asked my dad how I make a video game company, and he said, get really good grades, and of course that was a lie, he laughed. Which, yeah, I'm not going to say anything on that. Work hard in school, if anyone's in school, but, that doesn't always mean everything. The problem with realizing a dream is working out what to do next. Helldivers 2 put me in a strange mode of a strange thought, thinking of things like overthinking, he admits, because the problem with achieving such a wild success, achieving your calling, is you have to choose your next chapter. It doesn't come from within like knowing what you wanted to do since you were 8. This led Johan to Shams Jorjani, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Shams' history with Arrowhead stretches back to the start. He was one of the organisers of the Swedish Game Awards, which Arrowhead won its game Magica. Shams then joined Paradox Interactive, which had just signed the game, and he was assigned to the project, He helped the launch that, and then Arrowhead's second, significantly less successful game, The Showdown Effect. We then had an intense negotiation over Magica 2, which was finally resolved in an Icelandic hotel room overnight. Shams said both of us were drunk at the time and we decided that no, we won't do that project. But the two stayed in touch, and then in 2021, Shams left Paradox. Shams goes on to say, I had a bit of a big company PTSD, he continues. Paradox was 800 people, 10 studios in 6 countries, and a public company. After leaving Paradox, I came to Johan and said, let's do something together. We might end up killing each other, but we'll have fun. And Johan, as wise as he is, told me to F off because he had a game to ship. That game was Helldivers 2. Eventually, Shams did start advertising Arrowhead, and then with Helldivers 2 out the door, Johan asked him to become CEO. The move means that Shams will take over the day-to-day running of the business, allowing Johan to focus on game creation. We were both at a stage where we're wondering what's next in our careers, Shams says, and we realised we probably couldn't quite get to those places if we didn't have the other one to help us get there. That is actually so nice to see, to be honest. That shows when you've got someone in your life that can really benefit you and is a great person around you. That just was. Yeah, really nice. Johan adds, when it comes to the overall direction of the organization, I am still the chairman, so me and Shams are still going to have strategic conversations on how we're going to take Arrowhead into the future. Shams again added, my job is to enable him and other creative people to be able to do more games, and that's also what matters to the players. I play Helldivers and I hear my friends ask, are we going to get more stuff? And I'm like, yes, soon, because Johan will have more time to do it. We want more enemies, I'll tell Johan. Part of Shams' role will be able to help Arrowhead navigate the impact of Helldivers 2's success. The firm was a successful developer already. The first Helldivers game sold 4 million copies, while Magicka was also a breakout hit. They were all massive games in their genres, Johan observes. But Helldivers 2 is on a different level, and right from the start the team has had to contend with a series of issues, beginning with the servers burning to a crisp. We tried to fan that, but you shouldn't fan flames, Johan says. I told people to not buy the game until we can manage the servers, but that actually increased the amount of users, unfortunately. Then there was an issue around adding the need to log into PlayStation Network to play the game, which resulted in a backlash from fans and Helldivers 2 becoming unavailable in certain markets. Sony eventually backtracked on the requirement. Plus, there are other general live service games too, such as concerns around game balancing. This is something the organisation has seen before, Johan tells us. We had the horrible launch of Magicka, which was really buggy, and me and Shams recognised that we had to interact with the community, talk to them in an honest way, and tell them that what's going on as much as we could, and then take action immediately to resolve the issues, so we've seen and been through it before. Obviously to a bit of a smaller scale, but it's higher stakes this time. Next up, the big difference is the amount of threats and rude behaviour that people in the studio are getting from some really horrible individuals in the community, says Johan. He adds, when we look at the challenge ahead of us, we feel like Frodo and Sam going towards Mordor. The obvious approach of we'll take one step at a time and then we will solve the issues as they come. The strength of Arrowhead is in camaraderie and that we share amongst the team. And the strength of Arrowhead is the camaraderie that we share amongst the team. That makes more sense now. And the desire to help each other. We know that whatever we're going through, we're there for each other, and we will be able to take on any challenge almost and come out stronger on the other side. Johan says that the experience so far has been extremely enjoyable and a little bit daunting. Helldivers was inspired by Dragons and Demons, Sweden's answer to Dungeons & Dragons, and the team has enjoyed the game's master role with its community. Our game design is about transitioning our love for pen and paper RPGs into games that necessarily don't need to have dice rolls and stats. A lot of these pen and paper sessions are based on previous premise, which dissolves into a farce. We're seeing this with how the community interacts with Helldivers 2, but also how we interact with them. But with 12 million fans, there's been some challenges with the community that we haven't experienced much before. The big difference now, which is horrifying, is the amount of threats and rude behaviour that people are getting from some horrible individuals within the community, says Johan, and that's something new we have to deal with. Johan says that the frustration is part of the essence of the Helldivers. If you don't have these lows, you can't get those highs. And although this is something that is understood by more hardcore players, when you're reaching 12 million people, it's not something everyone is going to appreciate. Arrowhead's philosophy has always been a game for everyone is a game for no one, Shams explains. That is the company's slogan, and it's how our games are designed. You can feel it in every feature. It's just one of those big reasons that Helldivers 2 has been so successful. It feels fresh because it does a lot of unpopular stuff. When you hit this big, much bigger than anyone thought, Sony, us, everyone, what happens is the game finds an audience outside of that niche fan group. So you get this amplification of different voices. Almost all games have a bit of toxicity in the community, but with these big numbers, you just get so many. So we need to work with the community to get them to self-moderate, give people the tools to speak with each other in a positive fashion, so we can keep talking to the players openly. The more voices being added to the choir does add complexity. He continues, Valve is supposedly launching a new PvP game, and I am sure they've put hundreds, if not thousands of hours into handling toxic players because they've had that experience from Dota and Counter-Strike. It's ingrained into their product development, and they can just lift those systems. All of that investment and process we're learning painfully, and now we'll be carrying through to the next thing, whatever that may be. It's something that's also a bit of a learning process for PlayStation. Sony isn't the most experienced publisher, although it's starting to invest into, when it comes to live service products, although it's starting to invest in this area through new games and acquisitions of companies like Bungie. It's been a great partnership, and we're learning together. And they're recognizing that Arrowhead can be the spearhead in learning how to do live service better in the future, says Shams. It's just great to have somebody there with you as you figure all this stuff out. Johan adds, we're always chasing our tail in one way or another. We have to lay the tracks as the train moves forward. There are optimizations and workflow improvements that we can make. We're going in and tuning the organization to have the team work at a reasonable rate, because right now, to some degree, we're burning the candle at both ends, and we want to get to the point where we're producing as much of the candle as we are burning. The focus today is on Helldivers 2 and getting that balance right, but the studio is feeling confident, it's in a strong financial position, and it has strengthened its leadership team, and now it's looking forward to what's next. We feel like we have so much more to give and so many more games we want to make, says Johan. The ambition level and appetite of the organization has grown significantly. We now have the taste of blood and we want more. But that doesn't necessarily mean growing its headcount exponentially or acquired or going public. For Johan and Shams, it's all about what's needed to make the games they want to create. We pride ourselves on being an independent studio, says Johan, and we have to see what the future holds, but there's nothing in the plans of where we want to be acquired by somebody. I want to see how high we can fly, and bringing Shams on board, we have a good potential to realize that the future of turning into the next From Software or Blizzard. Shams adds, the goal of the studio is to make a really, really great co-op games, and we want to turn Arrowhead into a flagship studio where people who want to make these kind of games say thanks to themselves. I want to work at Arrowhead. When we were growing up, we wanted to work at Blizzard. It was one of the bucket list places to work at, and I think Arrowhead has potential to be that. But that doesn't mean that we have to be a 500-person company. In fact, a 500-person company is quite painful in a lot of ways. We will see growth, but growth has a means to I don't know what's going on there, to an end, but growth as a means to an end. It's not an end itself, sorry. We don't have plans to go public, none of those shenanigans. Measured growth that allows us to make an amazing game be a good place to work. And finally, Johan concludes with, we don't run the business for monetary gain. The humbleness and the desire to make great games is the only reason we exist. And that is the full interview with Johan and Shams. Shams being the new CEO of Arrowhead Studios. I'll let you guys talk about that between your friends in the comment section, and just let me know what you think about it. The idea of Arrowhead becoming the next From Software, or Blizzard is an interesting one. I know a lot of people are worried about that, but I feel like they have potential to grow and be bigger. And yes, new games may be worked on in the background, but I feel like they still have, like they said in the interview, a lot more to give for Helldivers, and I hope to see a really successful future, especially with Shams on board. Much love to you all. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.